Breaking rumors, if you will, which is almost like an oxymoron. But Nelson from Phoenix writing in, and he says, the Bombers and Argos are working a trade for Zach Collaros. What's new about that is that Davis Sanchez apparently last week of TSN said the two teams were talking. Now there's a name attached to it, and that is Zach Collaros. Now, I'm sorry. I am one of Zach's biggest fans. If I'm going after a Grey Cup, I'm not signing Zach, even for insurance. And maybe he's the only one that's available, but I would be going after James Franklin or McLeod Bethel-Thompson. We're told all three are available. Darren, you've been on this Zach Collaros. What makes you think that he could absorb a hit and not be carried off on a stretcher? Why would you think that?
I have no reason to believe that he would be able to absorb the hit. I don't. The evidence all points to him not being able to absorb the hit, but I'm not signing him to start. Okay, I'm signing him as an insurance policy. And if he takes a hit and can't play, you're done anyway. Because if your starter, Strevler, goes down, you got nobody ready to go. I mean, yes, it can happen. You have capable guys, but it's not happening, right? I would rank him Collaros first, then McLeod Bethel-Thompson, then James Franklin right now, because I'm going by who's got the highest floor. And for me, Zach Collaros has the highest floor. If he comes in and you can protect him, he can at least keep the car on the road and give you a chance. His floor is the highest of the three. So that's where I'm going. And it's funny because this rumor is picking up again, and it's picking up steam. But when it had picked up steam last week, as you mentioned, that they were talking. But this morning, Darren Bombing, as the news of Jim Pop's firing came out, Darren Bombing from TSN Radio in Winnipeg put out that because of this, there won't be a trade. He saw the Argonauts as not a trade partner anymore because of a new GM, and that they wouldn't be making any deals, pinball coming in that quickly. So the fact that the rumor's heating up again, just in a matter of hours, is very, very interesting heading towards tomorrow's trade deadline.
Well, I appreciate what Nelson's chiming in with. I'm not sure where the report's coming from, and if Nelson, you want to let us know, that would be great. But Marshall, your take on this. We're 24 hours away almost from the CFL trade deadline, and looks like something might get done.
Yeah, a couple comments. I mean, if I'm pinball and I'm looking at my roster, Zach Collaros is not our future.
Exactly.
So now, I'm not sure that Franklin is, and I'm not sure that McLeod I'll just call him Macbeth.
What about Hamlet? He said Macbeth.
Oh, Macbeth and Hamlin, yeah. It's like Mozart, the best plays or something. The one that Andy Reid said after their victory, he said, not all of Mozart's not all of Mozart's paintings were masterpieces or something like that. And everybody in the locker room's looking at him like,
Mozart played the piano.
He was a musician, not a painter. But anyway, I digress. If I'm pinball, I'm willing to trade Collaros because he's not my future. I'm not sure about the other two guys, whether they're the future. So I think if they weren't willing to trade him before, I think they would be willing to trade him now. If I'm Winnipeg, I know that Zach Collaros is not my future either. But I'm only looking for short-term future. I'm not looking for long-term future. So I think there is some strong possibility that that's going to happen. Now, what Zach Collaros brings to the table that, you heard me ask questions of Marcus Crandall earlier, not that Marcus would be on one of those people, but bringing in a Kevin Glenn or somebody that's retired in the last year, that hasn't been playing all year long, hasn't been in locker rooms all year long, hasn't been in meetings and film rooms all year long, is harder for them to come in. Zach Collaros has been, although he's been injured and hasn't been playing. So I think Zach Collaros makes more sense than a Kevin Glenn. But I have the same feelings as Darren does. I was willing to say in, whatever it was, January, February, March, April of this year, that I didn't think Zach Collaros could survive a hit. And I'm saying that even more so now after seeing what happened on the third play of the game this year. So I'm not sure he's the answer. But you might be lucky. You might bring him in. He might win a game or two for you. He might survive getting hit. And it's enough to get you over the hump, because it doesn't look like Strevler's going to be able to get it done this year.
Checking the poll question before we let Marshall go. It's for Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center. As always, did GM Jim Pop deserve to be fired in Toronto? Just two options. Yes, they don't have a quarterback. Or no, it's somebody else's fault. 85% of respondents saying, yes, he deserved to go. So I guess, Marshall, in the time we have left,
who else would you blame if you're not going to blame the general manager? Who brings the quarterbacks in? The general manager. Mm-hmm. The coach doesn't go out and find players. The general manager does. So I'm on the side of the 85% to say yes.
Yeah, it's funny because when they brought in James Franklin, you're pretty excited. He was very highly, sought after out of Edmonton, and it was Pop who brought him in, right? Yep. Out of Edmonton. So I don't think you were displeased with that move. I think you're happy making that move. It just didn't work out. Yeah. So I guess it goes to Jim Pop.
And let me flip that coin for a second. So yes, I think Jim Pop, whether it's the blame or the credit, deserves that for bringing in James Franklin. But turning James Franklin into a star quarterback, that's the job of the coaches. That's the job of your head coach. It's the job of your coordinator. It's the job of your quarterback coach. And it's a job, but it's influenced by the others that you surround them with. So the fact that Franklin didn't develop into this star quarterback that we thought he would over the last, when he was backing up in Edmonton and when he was on the roster last year in Toronto, that's on coaching. That's not on general manager.
And then I start, continuing to flip this coin back and forth that we're doing here. Well, who's responsible for hiring the coaches? And who's responsible for having the right quarterbacks coaching that's going to be day to day? It's all Jim Pop, right? So at that sense, if you have all the right pieces and things aren't working, then you got to start looking at who brought all the pieces together and do we have the right pieces? Who's the maestro at the top, right?
Sorry, you had one more point.
Yeah, and that is, I think one point of clarification. I think you're right that Jim Pop is responsible for bringing in the head coach, but I think the head coaches are responsible for bringing in their assistant coaches, including the quarterback coach and their offensive coordinator. So it's somewhere between those two extremes that we've been arguing down the sides.
Yeah.
Marshall, thanks for the visit. We got a lot covered today.
Always fun.
And we got some gift certificates for you from Industrial Park Cafe and Perkin Taps Coffee House, right? And Roots Kitchen and Bar at 4000 James Hill Road. I'll see you on TV tonight.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.